Hi everyone, and thanks so much for joining us today. We're here with Gavin Tollman from the Travel Corporation, and we're going to be talking about the future of touring and our industry. Thanks so much for joining us today, Gavin.
And wonderful to be with you, Sarah, and especially for me, just having arrived from Europe, to be back in South Africa.
We were just chatting before this, and you said that you're in Cape Town, which is really, really lovely. And nice that the beaches are open at the moment in the Western Cape too. Hey.
Well, for me, coming out of Europe and just being in the magnificent sunshine of the Cape is really one of the great blessings that we all have. And one of the reasons, really, Sarah, we all remember the very essence of the industry we are actually in, and that is the love of travel.
Absolutely. So, Gavin, I understand that you have a few predictions for 2021. It's been a year since COVID came into this world, and the world will never be the same again, and neither will our industry. Do you think traveller patterns and behaviours have changed indefinitely, and what do you predict for our industry going forward?
So, Sarah, I'd like to answer that question in a couple of different ways. So first of all, I would like to talk about the very essence of travel. The very reason we go, that desire to go, explore, connect to people all around the world. I do not believe that has changed one iota. In fact, everywhere we look, that very essence is actually the driving force of what people miss most. And that is not only for the traveler, but as well as those that you travel to see as well. Everybody misses that connection. However, what you do in the destination and where you go to is probably going to change. How you engage with your experiences. Things such as touchless interactions are going to be far more prevalent. All the way through, what we are definitely seeing in the post-pandemic world is a desire for people to get into some of the more open spaces. So countries like Switzerland, countries like New Zealand, countries like Norway, and if you're talking about the United States, destinations like the national parks, Alaska, are high on people's demand list. And what is wonderful for us to see is the immense interest of coming here to South Africa and exploring, our national parks here and going on a safari.
Okay. I read a recent piece of yours and you used the term Wonderlust, which I thought was a very lovely word. What do you mean by that?
So, Wonderlust means our desire to go out and explore, Sarah. That very essence to get out and go. And for me, I'm one of those intrepid travelers that as soon as I return, I'm already thinking about where to next. So obviously the last 9 months have been immensely frustrating. Wanderlust takes the lust and turns it into a given, because we can, travel itself is to me one of, and it's become for me since I was a young man, not only a luxury, it is actually a given. It's for me, it's an essential part of my life, like drinking water, eating food. That desire to go out and explore is a given. And therefore, it's not just a lust, it's a must, that when we can once again explore out and see the places we go, it's those green shoots that are appearing that I know very shortly I will be able to go out and explore again.
Okay, great. There's another term that I've heard coined over the last year, and it's being used quite a lot in the sort of escorted touring industry. And they're talking about like a touring bubble. Maybe you could explain to our viewers what exactly the industry and companies mean by a touring bubble.
So there's something, and what has been so fascinating for us, it has been the advent of technology. And what technology enables us to do is actually get a real litmus test of what consumers are looking for. And within the desire to travel, you are definitely seeing an underlying sense or a need that consumers want to stay within their family and friends, their immediate surroundings. And what we have gone out of our way to do is facilitate that, so you can actually travel with your own bubble. So, we pivoted very early on, and I'm talking around about the month of June, where we enabled travelers to come with group size as small as 12. And we would enable you to take an entire coach on your own with one of our travel directors, with everything else actually doing the experience So you can go and have it with exactly your own family, your own friends. And if you said to me, and as you said, you've read one of my predictions for the year, there is no doubt that family travel, the desire for families to interact, post-stressful periods, is one of the great outcomes that happens after every one of these terrible events. We saw it post 9/11, and I believe you will see this again. So being able to take your own bubble and travel with them and keep that powerful connection amongst families is so powerful. And I think we'll see it even grow in the future as well.
Okay. So one of the questions that you've just touched on already, I wanted to know, your group sizes have traditionally been sort of around about the 30 to 40. I think they vary across the tour products. But have you seen, you've talked about having the travel bubble, but on your sort of normal scheduled tours, do you think that those group sizes will change and change sort of long term? And how would you balance sort of a profitability if you were looking at smaller group sizes going forward?
So yeah, certainly when you actually look at the very reason people would continue to travel, a group size of 30 to 40 is not that large. It depends on your ability to social distance. And we established very early on, and actually were the guiding light to the World Travel and Tourism Council. We engaged with them to help set well-being protocols for our industry. Mm-hmm. One of them is obviously the ability to social distance, not only while you're traveling, but when you go into destinations themselves. And we work very closely with our suppliers. We work very closely with the places we do visit, as well as the places we'll stay in, to make sure those protocols are in place. So our view of the world is we will ensure there's appropriate social distancing on our coaches as well as wherever we go. And so it's not about the group size, it's the ability to fulfill that need and of being able to keep our guests feeling as though they have and that we've taken care of all of their needs.
Do you have any examples of how that works in practice?
Sure. And in fact, we have begun to run a number of trips and we're testing it right now. And it really varies. It varies by destination. And it's one of the very reasons, Sarah, you want to actually travel on a tour at the moment. And it's the essence is when you go into so many places. And what is fascinating to me is when you look at consumer sentiment at the moment, consumer sentiment is no longer about the well-being protocols. Those become a given. It's the ability to actually go out and have a great time, which is the reason we go on holiday. And so when I look at that, that is what touring can actually do. So whether we are running trips in Hawaii or running, as we have now run, a number of domestic series in Australia, we can make sure that we've taken care of all of those. And so it really depends on the size of the vehicle we will be taking, which varies upon the number of guests. And if you look at what, let's use Trafalgar as an example. It's not about the group size, it's where we'll go. So for going to Japan, where we typically run coach sizes of group sizes of around about 26, we are looking to capping those at 20. In our larger groups where we might typically run 40, we might only run them with 35. But one of the things, for example, we brought in, Sarah, was something called a well-being director, who assists our tour director to go on our trips. And the idea here is, once again, this is someone who is there to make sure all the protocols are in place. So these are the things that we brought in to ensure, as you said, the reality actually is delivered on our trips, of what we promise is delivered on our trips themselves.
Okay. Very interestingly, we spoke to Kelly a short while ago about the near not far itineraries that Trafalgar has introduced, and that's obviously aimed at getting local travelers to explore local destinations. But I wanted to speak to you about what destinations and tour types have been most impacted this year. How are you managing to run multicultural tours? Which are the tours that are doing well, and which are the tours that have suffered the most during this period?
So clearly these are early days. And what we have yet to see is what the true rebirth or the renaissance of travel is going to look like post the pandemic. What we are seeing is the following. there is no doubt some of our multi-destinational trips, the shorter ones, are doing very well. It seems like we're talking to a whole lot of people who historically wanted to travel, never did. They've now said, we are going to get out and book. On the opposite side, we are seeing, as I think I mentioned to you earlier, some of the more open-spaced destinations that are actually getting some of the most demand. And, like if I look in Europe, it is fascinating to see that Switzerland is through the roof in demand. And our trips right now to South Africa are actually up singular digit year over year since the announcement of the reopening of borders. So it's actually, there are other catalysts. It's not just a linear way of looking at it. It's borders opening up. It's kind of where they are on the COVID scale. These are the types of things that are determining how and when people book. But I think it's too early to look at it and actually say, this is where they're going. As a business, what we have done, and the Near Not Far series is a perfect example, is we obviously can run trips around the world. And what we then do is we are sitting and watching the trends of where consumers are going and pivoting ourselves to those needs. And one of them was to see the enormous interest here, as you heard from Kelly, of South Africans want to travel domestically. And obviously, a lot of our trips were always geared towards the international traveler coming into a destination. So we changed our view and very quickly started to look at trips of what and how we could create trips for the domestic traveler. And it's been wonderful to see. And we have done that obviously not just here in South Africa. Some of our greatest demand has been in the United States. And in the United States, where we are, our Near Not Far series of some of them, of the beaches of Southern California, Hawaii, as well as Alaska. Those are doing unbelievably well. But they are geared not just for the international traveler, we've changed them for the domestic traveler too. And so that is the way we'll continue to watch, and we will ensure that for our agent partners here, the ability to adjust to offer a right series for them, depending on what the world wants.
That's lovely. It's wonderful to see people exploring their own countries. And I think you're absolutely right. It's early days and the early adopters are out there, and we're going to see a lot of things changing over the course of the year. Gavin, thank you so much for talking to us. It was lovely to engage with you, and enjoy Cape Town, and we will speak more in the new year, I'm sure.
I look forward to it. And from me to you and to all the viewers, obviously wishing everyone just the most happiest of holidays. And as we look forward into 2021, really knowing that I do believe it's not a matter of if travel returns, it's just a matter of when. And we look forward to being with them as we explore this beautiful world together again in 2021 and in the new year.